Hey, dirtbags. Obviously, I'm going solo today because I'm talking about the Quiet on Set documentary, and I just didn't know how appropriate it would be to tackle some of that with puppets. Although I did The Idol, but that's a work of fiction. It feels a little different, even if you're talking about dark subject matter, talking about it through the lens of a fictional character. Like, there's a few degrees of separation. Or I'm just making excuses for myself. You decide. Anyway, for those of you that haven't watched it, Quiet on Set is a documentary covering the Dan Schneider era of Nickelodeon, which is to say, like the all that through maybe Henry Danger era of Nickelodeon. And like to be clear, I am only familiar with some of his intellectual properties to the extent that I am because I worked with kids for a long time after that content was being made for me. I would also like to talk more about how entertainment for tweens is kind of going away. I'm sure people have covered it more eloquently and better informed than I have, but I would like to talk about that more. I'm going to stop distracting myself. Anyway, it covers basically, it goes through a lot of people's accounts, both behind the scenes, the crew and the creative team, and also a lot of the child actors, their stories of what went on behind the scenes. And unfortunately, for them, it was very bad a lot of the time. Whatever we do or don't know from this whole situation, the one thing that we can take away is that Dan Schneider ran some very unpleasant, abusive, and uncomfortable workplaces that could not have been good for anyone involved. And that includes the people that he, for whatever reason, took a liking to or wanted to like keep under his wing. It's easy to look at people who are like favored by abusers as the lucky ones, but they really aren't, because to some extent they know how precarious that is, and it is dangled over their head a lot. I thought that they covered the information well, and I appreciated the timeline of events. They even presented some new information for those that haven't been following the story as it goes. And I appreciated how much they let the people involved speak for themselves. It wouldn't be, the writer talking about him threatening her for going to the Writers Guild and then cut to a dramatic voiceover. But what she wouldn't know is that her troubles were just beginning. It's like, no, they just let them talk. They let them go through their own feelings, which I think is very important, especially in a situation like this. That being said, there's always a that being said, isn't there? I mean, I guess if I'm always fucking saying it, there always will be. Anyway, I don't like the way that the discourse is already going. And I know that I can't control like what people think and say and feel about the media that they consume. But I really hate hearing people be like, my childhood is ruined. It's like, no, Drake Bell's childhood was ruined. Jeanette McCurdy's childhood was ruined. Like, we have the accounts of people whose childhoods were ruined by the things covered in this documentary, and it wasn't us. Fortunately, we now get to be informed and don't have to platform this dude's work anymore when we are, introducing it to our kids or kids that we babysit. Another thing that I've seen is both a lot of speculation about who signed NDAs and who took payouts and things like that. And that's a different kind of gross. Even if you have been through something similar to what these people have been through, you are not them. You did not experience it in the same way that they do, so you don't know how you would handle it in that situation. I don't either. And I don't think it's great of me to try and make character judgments over people that grew up in this, we have established, very toxic, unstable, unhealthy environment, and what they did to protect their mental health as adults. That's not for me to decide. There's also a lot of like, I've seen a lot of Keenan and Kel been real quiet lately. And it's like, what would you, and I'm talking to you, Denise, specifically like Kel Mitchell to do? Like, I want to know, do you want him to unload his trauma in front of us or do you want him to be like, mwahaha, I was in on it the whole time? Because I don't think that there is something that Kel Mitchell is going to say that feels satisfactory in any way. And we are not owed satisfaction for this story because it's not a story for us to consume for entertainment. It's a story for us to have the information that it contains in order to like make decisions with what companies and projects we support with our money or our interest going forward. That's what you do with the information in the documentary. I'm also seeing the resurgence of so many rumors and the whole, Dan Schneider assaulted Amanda Bynes and forced her to terminate the pregnancy at 13. I don't know if that did or didn't happen. I do know that the secret social media accounts that Amanda Bynes posted it under were revealed to be fake. So we do know that she didn't say that at any point in time. And like, I don't want this to come across as I'm defending Dan Schneider or like we don't have all the information. Like, no, we have all the information. He's a creep. He abused his power and he made these children's lives uncomfortable. That's all the information that we need. And there is a named rapist in this. Sorry, I don't know. I think I'm supposed to say like grapist. I can't do that. I'm sorry. There is a known child predator named in that documentary, and it's Brian Peck. And the fact that Dan Schneider enabled Brian Peck to work around all of these young people and put them in a position to be groomed is like bad enough. I'm not saying that we need to preserve his reputation, but I am saying that if at some point in time Amanda Bynes comes out and says, that never happened to me, well, now all of a sudden Dan Schneider is like, yeah, they made up all kinds of stuff. People just got carried away with a narrative and ran with it. And obviously that's not true, but he does have like Exhibit A. And the other thing, can we like, look, we're all human. I know that we're going to talk about Amanda Bynes and Drake Bell and Josh Peck and whoever else, like amongst our friends and in our private group chats. But like, can Amanda Bynes not just wear wigs and do nails on TikTok without constantly people reminding her that they used to find her hotter when she was 16 and asking her to relive what might have been, if they are correct, the darkest times in her life because like we're owed information? Absolutely not. Like, no, what we need to do with the information that we have been given is listen to the people that do want to tell their story. And like right now, Amanda Bynes clearly doesn't. I hope that like she has people in her life that she trusts, but it's also not my business if she doesn't. I've never met her. Beyond caring on a human level, like I can't pretend to have some deep concern for Amanda Bynes, and neither can anyone else who is suddenly pretending to. Back in like 2012 and 13, you guys were laughing at Amanda Bynes jokes, and I should know because I was the one making them half the time. We weren't being compassionate and sympathetic and like suddenly trying to foist and speculate new trauma on her all over again isn't going to help anyone. Um, I guess that's about it. I highly encourage everyone to buy a copy of Jeanette McCurdy's I'm Glad My Mother Is Dead. Um, Not so much for salacious behind the scenes details, but for the story of like how hard it is for a human being to process the trauma inflicted on them by someone that they trust. And it is a whole journey. And I think that she's so incredibly brave for sharing that with people and being so open about it, because she doesn't make it sound like an easy process, because it's not. She doesn't make healing sound fun, because it's not. It's building up a lot of scar tissue and like learning to work through a lot of pain. And I think that all of these people need space to do this without us deciding if they are doing it at a rate that we approve of. Anyway, sorry, I missed the puppets too. We'll be back soon. We are going to be discussing the House of the Dragon trailers that just dropped recently, and that seems like a more productive use of the puppets. Even though, again, that's going to discuss some grim, dark materials too. But at least Aegon II isn't real. Be safe out there, dirtbags. Hey dirtbags, future Casey popping in to cover my own ass and make sure, just check all the boxes to make sure that no one thinks that I am defending Dan Schneider, because again, I'm not. When I said that's enough, I did not mean I don't want to know anything else. I did not mean like you don't have to kick a man while he's down. It's not stop, he's already dead. No, by all means, keep kicking. But what I'm saying is that in the documentary and at present, as far as we know legally, Dan Schneider is not accused of assaulting any children. Dan Schneider is a free man who once made a big company a lot of money. And honestly, I don't think that his whole empire would have crumbled if the way that we consumed TV hadn't changed so much that he wasn't making them as much money anymore. Otherwise, I honestly think they would have made this go away. So what I'm saying is that when Dan Schneider tries to soft launch his career again, because he will, it's not an if, it's a when. Like, honestly, he might see this as a way out of children's entertainment, which we know that he wanted. I see a world in which he tries to do like a very dark horror film or like some kind of thoughtful indie drama. I see a world in which maybe he reaches out and wants to work with former Nick kids that he's on good terms with. But we have enough information to say no thank you to all that and reject it on all fronts. That's enough. Like, sexually preying on children should not be like the line that we draw in the sand to not support a creator anymore. Like, the way he treated his adults on set was bad enough. The way that he like made that young man's mom feel is bad enough. We can say no, and we should, because like if he starts making anyone money again, they will open the door for him. We have seen it. Mel Gibson is like, he makes mainstream movies again. And we have the information to reject any intellectual property that he tries to put out and make money off of. And that's what I mean when I say that's enough. We don't have to like inflict new imaginary trauma on these kids when they've gone through enough. That being said, if someone comes out and says that he did this, I hope that he is prosecuted to the full extent of the law. I hope that he has a miserable time wherever he is, and I hope that he is crying right now. So just to be super clear, it's still fuck Dan Schneider at Dirtbag Drive, but stop saying he forced an abortion on Amanda Bynes at age 13 because somebody like redug up those screenshots of some old fake accounts. Anyway, that's it. Stay safe, dirtbags. Remember, if someone is making you feel unsafe or uncomfortable, tell on them and get away from them and cut them out of your life. Stay safe. That's the main thing. Protect yourself.